I'm 87 now. I have sat beside more than 300 people as they died, and most of them did not go peacefully. I don't say that with any anger, just with the kind of quiet that settles in when you've seen the same ending too many times. I worked in a hospice for almost 20 years, not as a nurse. I wasn't trained for that. I was there every day anyway, sitting, watching, listening when people had something left to say, and staying when they didn't. You notice things after a while. Not patterns in the way people think patterns should be. Nothing neat, nothing comforting, but there are similarities. The way a room feels when someone is at ease, and the way it feels when they aren't. I can tell the difference before anyone says a word. These days I don't go in anymore. My legs aren't steady enough, and they said it's better I stay home. I understand. There's a limit to how long you can keep showing up to death before your own body starts asking questions. Still, it hasn't left me. Those rooms, those faces. At night sometimes, I remember the quiet ones the most, not the ones who were in pain. Pain is loud. It fills the space, demands attention. You don't forget it, but it doesn't linger the same way. It's the quiet unrest that stays with you. The people who kept their eyes open too long. The ones who seemed to be waiting for something that never came. I didn't think about it much when I first started. I was in my late 60s then, already older than most of the staff. I had time, and I needed something to do after my husband passed. The house had become too still. At first, I thought I was helping. Maybe I was, in small ways. Holding a hand, wetting someone's lips, sitting through the night so a daughter could go home and sleep for a few hours. Simple things. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized I wasn't just there for comfort. I was there to witness something people don't talk about. What it actually looks like when a life ends. Not the way it's shown, not softened, not arranged into something meaningful. Just what's there. In my 20s and 30s, I didn't think about any of this. I had a job at a small office, accounting work, the kind that repeats itself. Numbers, papers, schedules. I was good at it, reliable. I married young. We had one daughter. Life moved in a straight line. There was always something to do. Groceries, bills, school meetings. My husband worked long hours, and I filled in the rest. We weren't unhappy. That's important, I think. We just lived. Evenings at the table, television afterward, weekends that slipped by without much notice. I told myself we had time, that things didn't need to be said right away. If there was a tension, we let it pass. If there was something difficult to talk about, we postponed it. There was always tomorrow. That's what I believed. My daughter grew up. She moved away. Not far, but far enough that visits became something you planned instead of something that just happened. We spoke on the phone, short calls, updates. She sounded busy. I didn't want to interrupt her life. My husband got sick in his 70s. It came on slowly. At first, just small things, forgetting where he put things, getting tired earlier than usual. We adjusted. That's what you do. I didn't ask him what he was afraid of. I didn't tell him what I was afraid of. We stayed practical. Doctor appointments, medications, routines. We managed it until we couldn't. He died in a hospital room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and something older underneath it. I remember sitting there, thinking I should say something important, something that would close things properly, but I couldn't find the words, or maybe I didn't believe I needed to. Maybe I thought there had been enough time already. He closed his eyes, and that was it. It was quiet, too quiet. After that, the house changed. Not all at once, gradually. Chairs that weren't used. Rooms that stayed closed. Even the clock seemed louder. That's when I started going to the hospice. At first, I thought I was just filling the hours. But I think, looking back, I was trying to understand something I had missed. The first few deaths I witnessed stayed with me in a simple way. Sad, of course, but expected. People get old. People get sick. It's the way things go. But then I started noticing the difference between those who settled and those who didn't. There was a man, I must have been there only a few months, who had no visitors. He didn't speak much, but when he did, it was always about small things. A dog he had once, a job he left years ago. Nothing that seemed urgent. He died one afternoon. No struggle, no fear that I could see. Just a slow fading. The room felt still, not empty, just still. A few weeks later, there was a woman surrounded by family, children, grandchildren. They filled the room, talking, reassuring her. But she kept looking at the door over and over again, as if someone else was supposed to come. She didn't settle. Even at the end, there was a tension in her face. I remember thinking, it doesn't match. All that presence, all those voices, and still something missing. That's when I began to understand that peace doesn't come from what's around you in that moment. It comes from something earlier, something you either carry in with you or you don't. Over the years, I saw it again and again. People who had done well in life, good careers, families, full houses, and yet in those last days they seemed unfinished. Not in a dramatic way, just small things. Questions they asked too late, names they repeated under their breath. Apologies that didn't reach anyone who could hear them. And then there were others, fewer of them. They didn't necessarily have easier lives. Some had very hard ones. But there was a kind of quiet acceptance in them. Not happiness, that's not the word. More like nothing left unsaid that mattered. I remember a woman about my age, maybe a little younger. She had one visitor, a friend, I think. They didn't talk much, just sat together. At one point, she reached out and took her friend's hand, and that was it. No searching, no restlessness. When she passed, it felt complete. I didn't understand it fully at the time. But I started to see that the difference wasn't in how people died. It was in how they had lived with each other, or maybe how they had avoided living with each other. I saw a lot of avoidance. It doesn't look like anything when it's happening. It looks like being busy, being practical, not wanting to upset things. Putting off a difficult conversation because the timing isn't right. letting distance grow because it's easier than addressing it. I recognized it because I had done the same with my husband, with my daughter. We weren't estranged, not officially, but there were things we never talked about. Years went by like that. After my husband died, my daughter visited more often at first, then less. She had her own life. I didn't blame her, but when she came, there was a carefulness between us, polite conversation, updates, surface level things. I thought about asking her certain questions, about her childhood, about whether I had been present enough. But I didn't want to make her uncomfortable, so I let it pass. Again, there's a moment, I think everyone has it at some point, when you realize the opportunity has shifted, not disappeared entirely, but changed. It becomes harder to say what you've been holding back, more awkward, less natural. And then, eventually, it feels almost impossible. I saw that moment in so many hospice rooms. A son standing by the bed, wanting to say something to his father, but not knowing how to begin. A woman asking if someone had called her sister, even though they hadn't spoken in decades. Time doesn't close those gaps. It hardens them. That's something I didn't understand when I was younger. I thought silence was neutral, that if you didn't address something, it would just stay where it was. But it doesn't. It grows quietly until it becomes part of the air between you. The moment of irreversibility is never loud. It doesn't announce itself. For me, it came one winter. My daughter had been ill. Nothing serious at first, or so I thought. She didn't tell me much. By the time I realized it was worse, she was already in treatment. I visited her in the hospital. We sat together, much like I had sat with so many others. But this time, I was the one with things left unsaid. I wanted to tell her I was sorry, not for anything specific, just for the distance, for the years we let pass without really knowing each other. But the words felt too heavy, too late. She smiled at me, reassured me even, and I let her. She passed a few months later, quietly, but not peacefully. I could see it, that same searching I had seen in others. It's different when it's your own child. There's no way to step back from it, no way to observe it as part of a pattern. It breaks something. After that, I kept going to the hospice for a while. I don't know why. Habit, maybe, or the feeling that I needed to stay close to that place where things become clear, even if it's too late to change them. But eventually, I stopped. There wasn't anything more to learn, only things to carry. What is permanently lost isn't just the person. It's the conversations that never happened, the understanding that never formed, the chance to be known properly and to know someone else the same way. You don't get that back, no matter how much time you spend thinking about it afterward. Time only moves in one direction. That's something everyone knows. But knowing it and feeling it are different. When you feel it, it's already too late to use it. I don't think most people go in peace, not because they lived badly, but because they left too much unfinished, too much postponed, too much assumed to be understood without ever being spoken. If you're listening to this, I won't tell you what to do. I don't think it works that way. People live the way they know how. They make the choices that feel reasonable at the time. I did. Everyone I knew did. But I will say this. There is a difference between things that can wait and things that only feel like they can. It's not always obvious. I didn't see it when it mattered. You might not either. That's just how it is. These days my world is smaller. A chair by the window. A few rooms I move between. The sound of traffic in the distance. Sometimes I think about the people I sat with. Their faces come back to me in pieces. A hand, a voice, the way someone looked toward the door. I wonder what they would say now if they had another chance. I don't imagine anything grand. Probably just a few simple things. Said earlier. Said when they still had time to be heard. I don't have much time left myself. I can feel that in the way my body moves, in how the days pass more quickly than they used to. There's a quietness to it, not the same as those rooms, but close. I don't expect peace, not the kind I saw in those few people, but I understand now what it comes from and what it doesn't. That's enough, I think. It has to be.